Hi, my name is Brad Pitcher. This past weekend, I went on the Silence and Solitude Spiritual Formation Retreat. At the retreat, about 12 to 14 of us, this pretty small group, went down to Hanging Rock Christian Camp, headed out there on Friday, and we're there through Sunday. And the general idea of the retreat was to essentially unplug, spend time away from phones, away from just kind of technology and the internet in general, and get time to be alone with God, with our thoughts in prayer, and to also connect with others at Calvary. So my initial thoughts going into the weekend, I was pretty anxious at first, to be honest. I definitely have not incorporated silence or solitude much as spiritual practices in my relationship with God to this point, and so it made me a little bit nervous about what it was going to be like, what types of thoughts were going to come into my head when I had a lot of time to be just by myself or praying with God, and honestly what the Lord was going to reveal to me, what he was going to maybe call me to do or call me to stop doing, things that he was going to ask me to change in my life. I realized after the first session how just absolutely critical those spiritual disciplines are for me, to cultivate those spiritual disciplines in my life and to make them regular practices in my life. I felt joy in just being in the presence of the Lord without feeling pressure to do anything or be anything that I don't think I'd really ever felt before in my entire life. And it was so eye-opening for me to have that experience and just realize how much I need to make space to make this a regular practice in my life, to be silent just before the Lord, to let him speak to me, let him tell me what are the things that he wants me to do differently in my life, and just be able to craft a vision of my life with just me and the Lord, to just know that sometimes the Lord is not asking anything of us, and he just values time with just us in relationship with him, because he loves us so much and he wants us to love him back, and just to know that we don't have to be anything or do anything sometimes. He just wants us to be in his presence and to enjoy him. So I think the biggest takeaway I would say for me for the weekend was to understand how important it is to make space to get away from the constant demands that are on us in our everyday life, and just constantly being plugged in and feeling like we're just burned out and don't have the time that we would like to connect with God, and just being really intentional about making space to recharge and just be silent before the Lord, to feel how much he loves us just because we are who we are, not because we are doing anything or achieving anything. Just intrinsically, he just loves us so much because he created us and because we're his children. And I think that was the biggest takeaway for me, to just have that joy, experience that joy that the Lord wants me to experience by just being in relationship with him. And the only way that you can get to that point is if you just take time, schedule time to shut out all distractions and just get into a room, or it doesn't even have to be a room. It can be going outside, doing whatever makes you feel closest to God, but just being by yourself and being silent and making that space. You have to go on the Silence and Solitude Spiritual Formation Retreat. I cannot stress that enough. If you want to deepen your relationship with Christ and experience God in a way that you probably have not before, because so many of us, I think, in Western culture today and in our society are so just inundated with the idea that we constantly have to be going, and achieving, and going on this retreat will completely change your entire perspective on what God is asking you to do and the vision that he has for your life. So yes, absolutely, you must go on this retreat.